Alright guys, welcome back to the game. I'm going to fix up that scoreboard, but while I do, before we actually introduce the players, I want to give a big shout out to Showcraft TV. Now that's not to be confused with Basetradetv. I know we both have TV in our names, but Showcraft TV is an organization looking to help grow out the North American scene. But the really cool thing about it is the guy who's putting in all the money. There's a quote on the Team Liquid thread, I'm going to paraphrase it so poorly right now, but it basically says, hey, at the end of the day, as long as we got some good StarCraft out of it, I think the money's well spent. So if you guys want to see a lot of this stuff, don't forget to check out showcraft.tv. It's the website. I think right now we've got players set, but I think in the future there's plans to vote on who you want to play these show matches. Not these best of threes, but actually big best of 7 $200 show matches, which we have coming up all throughout the month of September. Again, showcraft.tv. But enough about them and more about this. Nathaniel, spotted here in the lower right corner of the map, we've got the pink Zerg player playing for complexity. It is Sasquatch.
And he is up 1-0 in this it's best of 3, this warm-up match against our yellow Protoss player from Team SCA, StarCraft Ascension. It is AiuR. He went for, a pretty strong push, but Sasquatch has been playing for so long. I don't actually know how long AiuR has really been in it, but Sasquatch is one of the first guys that I met, even just getting into StarCraft 2, so he's quite experienced. And to be honest, the Century Immortal style was probably the scariest thing ever to Zergs in Wings of Liberty, but now it's been a lot more figured out. So I think that going for tactics like that not going to work quite as well, but this is one of those maps where I feel like it's a little bit easier for Protoss players to hold on, at least in the 2-base stage. So I'm kind of curious as to what we'll see. It looks like he's going to lose.
Ooh, he actually snipes it,
Probe. Yeah, very nice catch there.
Typically it's one drone, so I guess maybe just set on patrol and stop paying attention to it, expecting like, hey, I got about 10 seconds to macro at home, but a little bit of a surprise. It kind of actually sucks losing that probe a lot early on. It limits your map control, you can't go for any cheesy stuff, and you can't get pylons out on the map without sending another probe out. And Sasquatch is going to know this. He's basically got about a minute of time where he doesn't have to worry about scouting for proxies.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest things, especially since, and we actually saw this in the last game, he sent out a second probe to do more scouting, because honestly, as a Protoss player, you have to check if they take a third base. It's so important to know that.
Well,
and
like last game is a good example.
Yeah, last game's a great example, because the 1-1 nullifies the +1 attack that AiuR had. Normally, if you have +1 Zealots versus 0-0 Zerglings, they take a whole less hit to kill them. It goes from 3 hits to 2 hits, and that's really big, especially when you're going for something like a Zealot Immortal push. So having the 1-1, which you typically wouldn't see as a Protoss, I think helped out Sasquatch a lot. So he's got these 4 Zerglings. I don't think he can really make much happen in the main base, but the second probe goes out, and he's basically playing center here, keeping him from getting back home.
It's a shame Sasquatch didn't come across the field and go for that 6-ling blitz that people like Bly do. He does sneak 2 into the base for now. Getting up to the top of that ramp is going to cost him other lings, so he can just camp out the natural for the time being. Actually snipes off a probe, already making this a worthwhile venture.
That's it's quite nice. If you can get anything, it's almost always worth it. Those Zerglings are mostly meant to be scouting. Just want to see what's going on here. And maybe this, you get poked the Nexus. There's no Zealot on the field, at least, to block anything here. Brings on a couple more probes. Gets another one.
Oh, and he micros but into the cannon.
That's a good catch nonetheless. He's killed 3 probes, and he's still got this other one tagged. But I think that this probe returning home should be able to make it.
Yeah, and even the one in the mineral line, he's trying to play Ring Around the Rosy, but that ling has almost no health. And the cool thing is it's not super significant. Oh, the cannon does shut that down, but even just a little bit of lost mining time, 4 probes rather being pulled to deal with lings. It's not a lot, but if you can keep doing it, it adds up. Sadly, Sasquatch's lings were taken out, but again, 3 lings, or sorry, well I guess 6 lings or 4 lings total for 3 probes, definitely worth it in the end.
Yeah. And I just want to briefly go over this. We were basically seeing, and you mentioned this in the last game, a much more standard Protoss versus Zerg. Sasquatch has gone for the fast third hatchery. He's now getting those gas geysers, so a little bit more of a standard timing. And we have the Stargate opening from AiuR, so it will be most likely that Phoenix control. Very rarely do we see Void Arrays or Oracles this early on against Zerg. The Phoenix just get better map control, especially for picking off those pesky overlords in the sky.
It's funny you bring that up. We are going for Phoenixes, and this is going to be nothing about anything. Well, a short story, if you will, while we get the Phoenixes out. I didn't even know this strategy existed, because this is what you expect, this is what's standard, but Nomi is a player who actually does this like 8 Oracle Blitz early on PvZ, and it works. And it's so weird that it works because you don't see Oracles at all anymore.
Yeah. You're making a good point. You just don't see it at all, really.
Well, Phoenix is going to get that map control for the time being. There's not a lot of Overlords out in the field, but there's enough to get a couple free kills.
Yeah, and that's really all you want to do, is you want to deny the map control, and if the Zerg underprepares, you can pick off a drone here, pick off a drone there. But it also gives really good scouting. A lot of people like to use early sentries, which you kind of have to cut out with this sort of build in order to get those Phoenix. Yeah, it's quite gas heavy. So it's nice. Sasquatch will actually get the scout off, so he knows what's in the main base, but he doesn't see just how fast this switch is coming. And I really like that AiuR gets his robotics facility so quickly. And I only say that because oftentimes Zerg players will try to just go straight for a fast Hydra push or some sort of roach counter. But you kind of end up in this situation where you only have Phoenix and you just get killed by a Hydralisk timing. So moving into the Robo this quickly, and I would actually like to see the robotics bay since that Hydralisk desk is den.
I'm sure they have desks within. No, but you're right. This it's almost rock, paper, scissors when you see this sort of strategy. You get the Phoenixes, you bait the Hydras. Hydras, of course, get the response of Colossus, and you have this huge cluster of the late game once Vipers get out there. So AiuR's on this bit of a timing where, okay, Hydras are fine, even if you got Colossus without Thermal Lance, but as you stated, he took a little while to get that Robo Bay down.
Yeah. I mean, it's coming in. I don't think it's going to be a big issue. The Hydras are getting the range upgrade first, which is usually indicative of wanting to play defensively since they get the speed boost on creep and don't need it as much. But it's just difficult, you know what I mean? You end up in that situation where the Colossus, even though the robotics bay is about to complete, he still has to wait for range, and he still has to wait to actually get the Colossi out. This Phoenix poking around a bit. Hydras, they're shooing them away now, though, and that's the benefit of getting those Hydras, getting the range first. Obviously, without the Hydralisk speed upgrade, it's very difficult to be aggressive off of creep.
And let's not forget, too, even if he's going to have to play defensive or go offensive, I kind of like Groove Spines generally for Zerg players, because let's not forget the very common thing that Hydras have to deal with, and that's the task of force fields. And if you can shoot over them by that one range a little bit better, well, that's way better than movement speed.
Yeah, I completely agree. Being able to shoot over force fields is absurdly useful, especially like if you think that your opponent's going to go for some sort of aggressive play. Man, get that range upgrade every time. There's no need, because even if you do get the speed because you want to be aggressive, it only takes a couple force fields, and then you're not getting away no matter what, and you still don't have that range. So he is going, however, for the melee upgrades. This is actually really interesting. He's in Ling Hydra.
I think his eyes are in the late game. Like, the Hydras are just the necessity, but not the goal. Meanwhile, though, behind this, I do want to point out, we've had a Changeling sitting inside the base of AiuR for so long at this point. Okay, now it gets killed by a probe. But, I mean, he saw the Colossus come out. He knows the timing of everything. And this allows him to not attack in blindly and lose a ton of units. That one Changeling.
Changeling's very useful. And, AiuR, he doesn't really have the biggest setup to be aggressive. We see a couple more gateways coming in now, and it's going to put him up to a total of about 7. And it looks like, he's decided, screw it. He's going for the 2 Immortal, 2 Colossus push. And I really like this because it really looked like from the part of Sasquatch, when you run in there and get that scalp, that he wants to take the 3rd base. But this is a rather scary force here, and he sees that he's moving out now.
The timing's a little critical on this too for AiuR, because again, there's no Corruptors, there's no Mutalisks, there's no Vipers, most importantly. This is kind of his best chance to hit. The Spire's finishing up, and once Corruptors get on the field, there's just not a soccer count to deal with them.
Yeah. And
oh god, no blink either, no
great
tech.
Point. I still think that not having anything like Corruptors makes this harder, because if you keep those 2 Colossi alive, they just kill everything.
Yeah.
Zerglings and Hydralisks, man, it's like the natural predator at this point. The Spire's about to complete, but we're going to have an engagement first. He's coming in. The force field blocking off so many of the Hydras. All of the Zerglings are pretty much already dead, and the Colossi still at full health.
Yeah, they haven't even been touched. Shield's barely gone on either of them. And that's half of Sasquatch's supply, but 9 Corruptors about to pop, and right now AiuR's got to hit hard. If he doesn't knock this base down here, he's not going to be able to in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see any way that he can stop this push right now. He still has a lot of Hydras. He needs to get the surround using that creep. He spread his units out quite a bit.
AiuR needs to get out, though.
But
coming
here
from all
he goes.
sides. The Spore Crawler even connecting with the Colossus. A small mistake that will cost him dearly.
That's Man, it's those tiny things. The Corruptor's getting all over those Colossi, and the Spore Crawler hitting the Colossi. Like, that's just not supposed to happen.
You know what? The Hydras got cleaned up enough before the Colossus went down, and that's the really key point. AiuR still got enough ground forces to continue pushing. Most of the Zealots left untouched. They were to the side of the fight. The Immortals are still standing, and Sasquatch is remaxing on Lings. Really glad, I guess, he went for those melee upgrades right around now.
Yeah, it's very, very useful. It's pretty much all you can make right now are those Zerglings, and there's honestly not that many Zealots. The nearest point of reinforcement is the pylon back by the, the left side fourth, I guess. He's using the corruption ability from those Corruptors, trying to get that extra damage, and
Nice
the drones are being
force
pulled.
fields, though.
But AiuR, he's holding. He's doing a ton of damage. Even more Stalkers running in now.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 5 extra, but 5 is way more than what Sasquatch can do. Well, he can't even get done with this. The worker's being taken out. Chi-Chi is called, and 1-1 will be the new score of the series.
Absolutely fantastic little push there from AiuR. It looked a bit scary when the Spore Crawler was shooting the Colossus. I'm not gonna lie.
I thought he was just dead at that point.
It's generally not something that you see, but he managed to. He managed to make it work. It's hilarious, but awesome all at once, and that's AiuR saying, "Hey, I'm not. It's not just gonna be a straight 2-0, man."
No, definitely not. We got Neoplanet S coming up next, guys. The last map in this best of 3. Where's the ladder edition? Here we go.